Yo! Hey, and that should be the intro. I was literally waiting to do that. Yo! I am dropping the controller because I pressed record. Yo! This is Dion Black, and this is
Twilla,
all that. And we are Lactose Entertainment, and this is FIXIT-N-POST. I wanted to ask you a question about the importance of having diversity in the business. A lot of times we come across a lot of programs that says, you know, the importance of women, you know, culture, black culture, or diversity, or the color initiative, and they always trying to kind of like do the minorities. And I'm sure a lot of white folks are kind of like, yo, why don't we have any programs? So what would you say for something like that?
That's a loaded one right there, Dion. Well, I don't know. Like, first, it's just like when you look across the board of like who's like the above the line, and when I say above the line, you know, I'm talking like your producers, your writers, your directors. When you look even at who's calling, like greenlighting this content, it's a lot of white men. And when you have these people who are like the gatekeepers, for lack of a better word, like these circles bring on their friends and their peers. And so a lot of times you end up in spaces that start looking a lot like these people who keep bringing on their peers. And and that's a whole nother conversation about diversity in our everyday lives and getting to know these people. But it's meaning that we're not necessarily having these opportunities to be in these spaces. Like one of the greatest shows of all time, people will argue, is Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones didn't have not nan person of color, write or direct. Wow. Only like 2% of the directors on that show were women. They haven't had like a female writer or a female director in like the last 2 seasons, I believe.
Wow.
And so you could actually, and that actually translates in the content. And you could see it in the screen. Like when you watch, like when I first started watching Game of Thrones, I was like, there's a bunch of men writing this right now because this is just a man's this is a man's fantasy. And whatever they think that a strong woman is their idea, projecting what a strong woman is. And so like it's so then it becomes important on many levels, because then you start getting these one-sided perspective of what it looks like to be woman or black, because it's being told, or Latino or whatever, because it's being told through a lens of a white man. Not to say that white men can't be creative writers, it's just that they haven't lived this life or have that same experience, that alpha perspective or voice to tone. So then that's on the screen, but then behind the scenes, everything starts looking like you. So when you have like these diversity initiatives where, for like these diversity initiatives have been around for years, whereas basically they're trying to slowly meet other writers, directors who have that talent. So it's like, let's select, hey, all women writers, please apply to this program, and we'll look through your work, and then we're gonna let like 1 or 2 of you through because we see, and we're gonna cultivate you. So now the places are getting a little bit diverse, a little bit more diverse. Nowhere as fast as it needs to be. But I think those types of initiatives are important, because like imagine like one day when we have our own show, who we're gonna hire. Like we're gonna hire people.
So do you blame them?
Huh?
Do you blame Hollywood for hiring their friends and family and people that they're used to working with, that they know they're good, which is typically people that look like them?
No, I'm not blaming them for it. It's just like like I said, like it becomes, that's a conversation, because it's like, why are you only hanging around people that look like you?
Right.
So that's another conversation about some other socio-economical stuff that we need to talk about. But for right now, in this time frame that we're living and working in, I don't blame them. I get it, because we get a show. I know people who look like me, or, women, black people, black women, women in general of every ethnicity, who I'm going to bring on because I know these are hard workers. I know that they have the skill and talent and just haven't been given a shot. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I'm going to be like, come on, like, let me bring this higher up. Now, first of all, friends, if you're listening to this and I get a show, trust and believe if I bring you on, you won't embarrass me. If you do, I'll be more than happy to fire you, let you go. What you won't do is mess my good name up. We all here to work and work hard.
Mm-hmm. All that.
I'm just going to open the door. It's your job to walk through and stay in that space.
So I heard a question.
Uh-huh.
What's more important? Black people behind the camera or black people in front of the camera? What needs to happen more often? I know you're going to say both.
Okay.
But what...
So, this is what I was going to say. Like, we've seen the influx. Like, in the late 90s, we had all those black movies. In the early 90s, we had all those black sitcoms. We were in front of the camera. And then all those shows went away. And all those movies went away. It has been a long time since we've had ourselves back on the screen.
Right.
And that's a more recent occurrence. We're getting more black content and things like that. I think it's important to have us behind the scenes doing the work, right, because then we're actually...
That would translate into more black actors.
Right.
Because there'd be more stories. And I was going to say that. If we had more black people behind the cameras, which we are doing, we've been doing it. We start to tell black stories that would require black people in front of the camera.
Right. Or even like universal stories
that
black people can tell. Like, one of the biggest things, like Hitch, for example, didn't have to be a black love story, didn't have to be a certain love story,
right,
but Will Smith and Eva were able to carry that story just as well as any white person could.
Right.
And even that story, like, they didn't want Will to bring on have a black love lead because they didn't think that then that would be a black love story and that wouldn't really translate to the masses. And Hitch is one of my favorite rom-coms, so it's just crazy to me.
Seen the movie once. I enjoyed it.
Just once? So.
Yeah, I've seen that movie and Pursuit of Happiness once when it comes to
Pursuit of Happiness is heavy.
That's a one for.
I think I've seen it twice and that's all I have.
Why'd you watch it again?
Because I watched it recently. Like, I was like, I remember this being a good movie and I should support again. And I just...
It is a slow burning movie. It's just like, dude, this brother can't catch a break. Like, Did
it feel too familiar sometimes?
Yeah. I can't catch a break. I really felt like that movie was like, even though it was a true story, like when I see biopics, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
And I do more research on the actual person to see, like, what parts were true and what wasn't.
Yeah. How many times did you see Ray?
Ray, one time.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Like, I'm good. I seen it. I figured it out. But when it's like those movies, it's like, it's art. Like certain seeds were planted, and you got to kind of watch it again. Like, oh, that's why he said that, because they were hiding. She was in the background the entire time. Oh, so that type of movies, like those return value movies, mm-hmm, if you will. Is that a term? I don't know, what is the retention? Those movies. Yeah. You're not going to keep making these faces when I'm not looking at you, okay? That's what you're not going to do. All right? Mm-hmm. I went to Dayton, Ohio public school, and a lot of the words don't come as quickly as I want them to.
Is that you just kept searching for a word? And
yes.
You got the point, and you could have just left
it.
I'm always had nothing to do with Dayton in that moment.
Right.
I do blame Dayton on your public.
I have no problem admitting that I went to a very horrible public school system. We were dumb as hell. I'm not going to say we. I was dumb as hell.
I just think maybe knowing you.
I didn't absorb what I should.
You didn't get like the style of teaching because you are like ADHD, like an MFer. You know what I mean? Oh. And so you needed somebody to like teach to.
So you saying I have ADHD?
Yeah.
So describe ADHD.
Okay, I'm gonna always go back to like when you were performing on stage as a comic, and you were in the mid joke.
As opposed to me stripping. Keep going.
You were like mid joke, and somebody would walk in the room, and your eyes would immediately like you would be now distracted from your joke now that you saw somebody walk in the room, and then you would be like, I lost my train of thought.
But that's filling out the room though. And
you could still tell the joke.
Chances are,
and come back to that person.
Chances are that joke wasn't working, and I had to kind of like pull somebody else into this joke that was falling apart. So if I was like, yeah, so next thing you know, the guy had green hats on. Look at that guy. He has green shoes on. So I had to kind of pull him in to this dying joke. So, all right. Thank you for bringing back another time in my life where the pursuit of happiness didn't go the way I wanted it to.
You know, God works things out for us for a reason.
Yeah.
Won't he do it?
Good old Twills. Good old Twills. All right.
We were talking about diversity.
Yeah, and you brought it into my... So this is going to be a quick one. How do you guys feel about diversity in Hollywood? Do you think we need more black stories told? How do you feel about white people behind the scenes with telling black stories? Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I know this is supposed to be your ending, but
no.
I just got so I think people can tell stories, right? I think a good writer can tell a story, but I think that a good writer also needs to be a form. So if you're saying, you know, I'm a white female, but I'm gonna write this story about this 14-year-old black boy and his relationship with his grandma. Well, ma'am, you're not a 14-year-old black boy, nor do you have a relationship with a black grandma. So let's then try to like, where do you tap in? Who do you talk to try to gain some, like, I think it's dangerous if you just write it and be like, this is how I think it should look.
Right.
And I say that coming from a place where in a writing class in college, my professor, who I actually really love, was telling me that he was a white Jewish guy, and he was telling me the scene that I wrote of a black church didn't feel authentic. And I was like, but I go to black church every Sunday.
Right.
So,
right.
But it didn't feel like what he
wanted to come off.
Thought black church should be.
Wow.
And so I was like, so had he wrote that scene, it'd have been a lot different. It would have been more of a spectacle than what it could be, like what my experience was in that.
Wow. Because it was a true story about black churches with you or something? Experience?
It was just based on, it was a story that I was writing, but it was based on my experience of a girl going to church, who actually attends church with her grandmother. And it was based on my experience as being this girl who goes to church with her grandmother. And so I have that actual real life authenticity to draw from. It's kind of like if you're writing a script and you say, oh, this is going to take place in Roanoke, North Carolina. You ain't never been to Roanoke. Right. So what do you have to do?
Research.
Yeah. You might even go to Roanoke.
Right.
To get a feel.
Right.
But you just can't write that based off an imagination or thing that you saw.
Right.
And so I think that if you're going to, and there's people who disagree with me. There's people who think that no, a person can write it fine without any help. Let them be authentic in their voice. Or as other people be like, no, they have no business touching that story. Let the person of color with that experience write that story. I'm saying you can write that story if you're responsible.
But how you feel about Steven Spielberg doing Color Purple?
Yo, I love Color Purple. This is what I said. If you're going to write that story, if you're going to tell that story, be responsible. The story is based on the book that was already written by a black woman.
But
and that black woman had parts of it. Quincy Jones had parts of it. People the people that touched that film, like they were responsible in that storytelling. The Wiz was not written by a black person.
Right. It was already written, but
it was also a Jewish, like the whole perform. It was a white Jewish dude in the background. It was. We love that film.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, you talking about the Wizard of Oz or the Wiz?
Ease on down.
Yeah, I get it. I know, but I thought you were saying the Wizard of Oz's writer was a white Jewish dude. But the Wiz.
The Wiz. If you look at like the movie, like the director and stuff of the movie, I don't know about the play. The movie was not.
Let me ask you this. How do you feel? And this is vice versa. How do you feel about remade movies that originally was white but now cast? Do you feel biased about a remake movie by a black movie or TV show that's remade for a white cast?
Is there an example? Or are you just going on?
No, there's examples. Like,
let me put it this way. I feel like Hollywood runs the remakes right now, and there's so many original stories out that's what they should be seeking,
right?
And not be afraid to tell.
Original stories?
Yeah, original stories.
They ain't your money.
It is not my money, but I'm saying like they're so, because this work, they'd be like, let's do this film, and this time let's put a black face to it, or this time let's make it a gay couple. Like it's just like tell the original story with black people, tell an original story with black people, tell the original story with gay people. Like you don't have to like take this story and this story like.
But it's a strategic plan of trying to figure out how can I make money.
Like, I get it, and I get Hollywood's about. I totally get blockbuster hits. I get ratings. I understand all that stuff. I'm saying as a filmmaker. I'm saying as a person who's an actual writer. I'm saying like give a chance. Like Hollywood worked for so long. The golden age of Hollywood wasn't told with remakes. It was told with original stories.
Right.
They're trying to recreate this formula because it worked so long in an industry that's like changing fast. You got tech companies, you got telling new stories, taking chances on new filmmakers, and people are not watching like TV on their screens. They're, smaller screens. They're not going to the movies. You've got to figure out a new way instead of relying on old Hollywood. You got to figure out a new way to attract these new people to something big. Disney, I feel like Disney almost got the formula.
They're doing a bunch of remakes.
They're doing remakes to cornerstone that, but then they're also delving into new technology like Disney Plus / Hulu, whatever they got is going to be with Disney Originals. So like they got a cornerstone, a foothold on this market, but they're like dabbing into these new markets.
But a lot of it's I don't know the percentage, but I would just say off the cuff, I would say about 30% of the movies and content is original. A lot of stuff is the comic books or a play. They're pulling from hit source material because it's like, I need to make my money back.
I would say even if you do adaptations, that's still different. Like Children of Blood and Bone, we know it's one of my favorite books. That's a new book, but they're doing a film adaptation of that. So that's a new source material. They're still taking
show business. You gotta think about the business. If somebody gives you $5 million and you like, you know what? I want to put my $5 million into this new project that I have no idea is going to come back. Or I can spend $1 million each on a bunch of remakes because I know guarantee I can make my money back tenfold. One of them might fall down, but the thing is like I still got 4 more. So it's like with that money, that cushion to secure the bag in my family, I'm going to use that money to possibly throw in an original. And then when that original hits or fails, I got to go back with that other fold and do some more remix and reboots.
Right. So I'm just saying, I feel like I get it. Once again, I understand it. I just feel like it's a broken system, so they should try to find something new.
Why?
A new formula.
Why? If it's
I just
working.
said it's broken.
Yeah, it's not broken.
The film industry is losing money. Like, you don't make... I mean, unless you're going to come out with a high concept comic book feature that has a fan base, a strong fan base, most movies aren't making the money that they used to make.
I disagree.
Read it in the trades.
What?
Read the trades.
I disagree. Well, I want to know your thoughts. How do you feel about remakes, reboots? We have a lot of questions in here. Yeah. Black people, white people, oppression, pursuit of happiness. There's a lot of questions going on in here. I want to know your thoughts. How you feel about the Hollywood scene? Yeah, see you on the next episode. All right, make sure you like, subscribe, comment below. And I am Dion Lack.
I'm Twilla Me.
We're Lactose Entertainment, and this is Fix It in Post. I am grabbing the controller again. Turn off. Okay. It's not working.